The sunset painted the Santa Clara Valley in gold as I stood before my newly completed modern house. My creation. My dream. I, Allison Warren, 35, had finally accomplished what everyone said was impossible, designing and building my dream home through sheer determination and architectural expertise. My fingers traced the smooth oak door I'd personally selected, my heart swelling with pride. This wasn't just a structure of wood and stone, it was physical proof I'd conquered every doubt, every whisper, every dismissive glance thrown at me throughout my career. Tomorrow's housewarming party consumed my thoughts. Everything was perfect, the caterers, the lighting, the music, all ready to welcome those few precious souls who'd believed in me when no one else did. But when I returned for one final inspection this morning, I froze at my doorstep, key suspended in air. A voice from inside sent ice through my veins, my sister Brittany. The vaulted ceiling is perfect for the wedding photos. Brittany's excited voice echoed. And the terrace will be amazing for the champagne toast. I pushed open the door, my stomach knotting with dread. There stood Brittany in my entryway, the Italian marble floors still fresh with the scent of polish. Beside her, a slender woman clutching a tablet nodded enthusiastically as they discussed flower arrangements and lighting, behaving as if they owned the place. "Brittany," I managed, my voice tight but controlled. "What exactly are you doing here?" She spun around, her face lighting up with that practiced innocence I knew too well. "Oh, you're back. Didn't Mom tell you?" Her smile was dazzling, utterly blind to my mounting fury. "She's giving me this house as a wedding gift. Ethan and I will raise our family here." I stood paralyzed as memories flashed before me, sleepless nights revising blueprints, endless permit applications, fighting contractors and banks every step of the way. I'd sacrificed relationships, vacations, even health to create this sanctuary. And now Brittany, my younger sister who'd never finished anything she started, was casually claiming my masterpiece as if it were a hand-me-down sweater. "This is my house," I stated, my voice dropping an octave. "I designed every inch, approved every fixture, paid for every nail." Brittany gave me that condescending smile I'd seen since childhood. "But you're always working, Allison. You barely need a place to sleep. Mom said you'd understand the importance of giving Ethan and me a proper start." As if summoned, Mom glided through the back door without knocking. She immediately approached the wedding planner, gesturing grandly toward the living room windows. "The sunset view is spectacular from here." "What's happening?" I demanded, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Mom, why is Brittany planning her wedding in my house?" "Allison," Mom cooed with that sugary tone that always preceded manipulation, "your sister is getting married. This house is too large for someone alone. You're hardly ever home anyway. We thought it made perfect sense for Brittany to start her family here." Disbelief crashed over me like a tidal wave, forcing me to grip the stair railing for support. My own family's betrayal cut deeper than any knife could. My fingernails dug into my palms as my expression hardened into steel. Never again would they treat my life's work like a hand-me-down gift. "Everyone out. Now." My voice was quiet but deadly. Brittany's eyes widened in shock, but Mom spoke first, her tone dripping with condescension. "Allison, don't be dramatic. This benefits everyone. You're successful enough to design another house whenever you want. Brittany's starting a real family. She needs stability." A bitter laugh escaped me, echoing across the Italian marble floors I'd personally selected from a quarry in Florence. "So because I'm capable, I should sacrifice everything for someone who's never worked a day in her life." Brittany stepped forward, eyes flashing with rehearsed sincerity. "You don't understand. This time it's different. Ethan and I are serious. Mom's just giving us the foundation we need." "Foundation," I repeated, locking eyes with each of them. "That you didn't lift a finger to build." The tension thickened. Mom nervously tucked her hair behind her ear, her tell when she's cornered. "Honey, you seem stressed. Let's discuss this later. Besides, the paperwork might be flexible." My eyes narrowed. Suddenly everything clicked. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated theft disguised as generosity. I strode to my portfolio case, pulled out my tablet, and opened my digital archives. I turned the screen toward them. Here's every document, design contracts, building permits, material invoices, contractor payments, all from my personal accounts. I paused, tapping open a final folder. And the property deed, registered solely to Allison J. Warren. This house is legally mine. No other name appears. Not even yours, Mom. Brittany's mouth fell open. But Mom said. Your mother, I stared directly at her, had absolutely nothing to do with the permitting process. I handled every meeting with the building department myself. I filed every form. I captured every conversation. I have evidence of everything. The silence was suffocating. I stood taller, my resolve unshakable. I won't let anyone, even family, steal my life's work for a wedding venue. Allison, please, Mom's voice cracked. You're tearing this family apart over bricks and mortar. No, I whispered. You're destroying us by treating me like your personal architect with no feelings. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Jason. It's Allison. Email me copies of all property documents immediately. And contact security, I need new locks and surveillance installed before tomorrow evening. Mom's face paled. You're going too far. Too far. I turned back, my voice dangerously calm. The line was crossed when you planned a wedding in my home without permission. When my single status made me an inconvenience. I'm done being silent. Brittany stepped back. I just thought. You thought I'd surrender like always, I cut her off. Not anymore. I flung open the front door, inhaling the scent of lavender I'd planted myself. 10 minutes to leave, or I call the police for trespassing. They stood frozen. Mom's tears fell, but I felt nothing. Brittany glared as if I were the villain. Allison, she whispered, I never thought you could be so cold. I met her gaze steadily. I'm protecting what's mine. If that upsets you, maybe try building something yourself instead of taking what others create. As the door closed behind them, my hands trembled slightly. But my heart was steady. This was my life, and I would never let anyone steal it again. Within an hour of banishing Brittany and Mom from my property, my phone exploded with notifications. Messages from relatives I barely spoke to flooded in, all variations on the same theme: family comes first, Allison. Stop being selfish. Aunt Carol called me an emotional iceberg. Cousin Emma texted, you have just one sister. Houses can be replaced, broken families can't. I read each message with perfect clarity. Not one person asked why I'd taken such a stand. Nobody acknowledged that I'd poured my heart, mind and youth into every inch of this home. Sipping peppermint tea from my favorite mug, a memory surfaced, me at 12, punished for a week when Brittany broke Mom's vase and blamed me. Mom bought Brittany new shoes as comfort for the incident. Today was the same pattern, just with higher stakes and, finally, my refusal to play along. My phone vibrated. Brittany. I watched it ring until voicemail took over. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. Allison, her voice dripped with venom, look at yourself. You've always been jealous of me. I'm the one everyone adores, who gets to be bridesmaid for all our friends, who's having the fairy tale wedding. What do you have? An empty house and some paperwork. That's not success, Allison. That's just sad. I deleted the message mid-sentence. Jealous Brittany's favorite accusation whenever I objected to her taking what was mine. Jealous of her pampering. Jealous that she never faced consequences. Jealous that she lived rent-free off others' generosity. 3 quick taps on my phone blocked Brittany, Mom, and her number. Suddenly, blessed silence enveloped me. Alone in my kitchen with its custom granite countertops, watching sunlight dance across polished surfaces, the quiet felt like freedom. No more explanations. No more demands. Just me and the sanctuary I'd created. The peace lasted exactly 2 days before my email inbox exploded. Aunt Carol's message screamed in all caps, how could you destroy your sister's wedding dreams? Mom's college roommate wrote, I can't believe sweet little Allison grew up to be so cold-hearted. I laughed bitterly. Everyone had opinions when they weren't the ones pouring concrete or paying contractors. Sleep evaded me that night. I meticulously reviewed every document related to my house, from initial sketches to final inspections. I backed everything up to 3 separate drives and forwarded complete copies to Jason, my attorney. Jason, I need to prepare for the worst, I told him over the phone next morning. If they try claiming ownership, I need ironclad protection. And if necessary, can we file a restraining order? After a thoughtful pause, he replied, based on what you've sent, your position is extremely strong. I'll start preparing everything. That afternoon, my security system alerted me to visitors. On the monitor, I watched Brittany dramatically posing with her wedding dress, Ethan awkwardly standing beside her. I remained at my desk as she rang the bell repeatedly, her expressions cycling from hopeful to angry to tearful, her standard performance. A notification flashed, security footage backed up to cloud. I smiled. Whatever scheme Brittany was planning, I was prepared. This time I had more than locked doors. I had evidence, legal protection, and most importantly, a newfound strength that would never again be silenced. 2 days after confronting Brittany and Mom, an email from Jason Matthews appeared in my inbox, restraining order granted. My fingers trembled as I opened the attachment. The county court had officially ordered Brittany Wilson, Carol Wilson, and her fiancé Ethan to maintain 100 yards distance from any property under my name. A wave of relief washed over me, like surfacing for air after being held underwater. I immediately called the security company to finalize the surveillance system. The technician installed facial recognition cameras and integrated real-time alerts to my phone. My sanctuary would now recognize friend from foe. Jason called while they worked. "I've delivered the official notices to all three," he said. "We've backed up all evidence, emails, footage, witness statements. If they challenge this, we're more than prepared." "Thank you," I whispered, watching the sunset paint my windows gold. "I just want to live in peace in the home I created. After seeing that court order, they'll think twice before coming near you again." Saturday arrived with perfect weather. My housewarming, which I'd feared might never happen, transformed into something more meaningful than originally planned. I invited only those who truly mattered, colleagues who respected my designs, university friends who shared my early struggles, neighbors who watched over the construction site, and fellow architects who understood what this achievement meant. Madison arrived first, arms filled with vibrant sunflowers. "Allison, this exceeds even your renderings," she gasped, taking in the soaring ceilings. "I'd have abandoned the permit process without your midnight pep talks," I laughed. The atmosphere quickly warmed. Guests wandered through spaces I'd meticulously crafted, the living room with 20-foot windows capturing the valley view, the chef's kitchen with waterfall island counters, the acoustically perfect studio where I'd design my next masterpiece. Leading everyone onto the terrace, I watched their faces as sunset illuminated the infinity pool. String lights twinkled among carefully placed olive trees like earthbound stars. "I'm seriously considering squatting here," whispered my former professor, raising his glass. For the first time since completion, I truly felt like this was my home. As the evening wrapped up, my phone vibrated, alert, Brittany detected at property perimeter. Not crossing restraining order boundary. Police notified. I maintained my composure, discreetly locking doors through my security app while continuing conversation without missing a beat. Not a single guest noticed the potential threat to our celebration. By midnight, only Madison remained, helping collect glasses. She paused on the terrace, gazing at the valley lights. "Your mom called me yesterday," she admitted quietly. "Says Brittany's not eating, the family's falling apart. She wants you to be the mature one and forgive." I stood silently beside her, considering my response. "You know what felt most liberating tonight?" "What?" "Hosting my first gathering without constantly watching the door, dreading who might appear to hijack it." Madison said nothing more, just wrapped me in a tight embrace that spoke volumes. Later, alone in my study beneath soft ambient lighting, I spread new project sketches across my desk. This house had evolved beyond mere achievement, it now symbolized my courage to finally stand my ground. A week after my housewarming, while I reviewed blueprints for a new waterfront project, my security app chimed, "Visitor, Ethan Miller, appointment confirmed." My stomach tightened. Ethan was Brittany's fiancé, a man I'd exchanged maybe 5 words with at their engagement party months ago. I opened the door cautiously. Gone was his usual polished confidence. Instead, he stood rigid in a tailored suit, clutching a manila folder, his face drawn with what looked like sleepless nights. "I apologize for coming unannounced," he said, voice barely above a whisper, but I had nowhere else to turn. In my living room, he perched on the edge of the sofa as if afraid to fully occupy the space, placing the folder between us like a fragile artifact. "Brittany told me this house was our wedding gift," he began, his gaze fixed on the coffee table. "She claimed it was registered under your name for tax advantages." "That's a creative interpretation," I replied dryly. He rubbed his temples. "I believed her completely. But after seeing your portfolio displayed at the Architectural Awards ceremony last week, I started digging." His voice cracked slightly. "When I questioned the paperwork, she deflected. Then I discovered she's been using your mother's signature to secure massive loans. I found suspicious transfers to a business account called Warren Design Studios, a company I'd never heard of." My blood ran cold. From the folder, he extracted several printouts. Her social media campaign over the past 3 months. Each page felt like a physical blow. There was Brittany, posed in my entryway, blueprints dramatically unfurled in her arms. Another showed her in my kitchen with the caption, "My latest design, where function meets elegance for the modern family." "About those forged loan documents," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Do you have evidence?" He nodded grimly, producing banking records. "The signatures don't match other documents your mother signed. I believe they're forgeries." "Have you confronted Brittany?" I asked. "She called me paranoid and untrusting," he said, shoulders slumping. "But Allison, this goes beyond our relationship. She's soliciting actual clients using your credentials." I retrieved a secured hard drive from my safe, containing every design file, permit, and legal document related to my home. "I'm sending everything to my attorney immediately," I said. "This has crossed into criminal territory." Relief softened the tension in Ethan's face. "Thank you for taking this seriously." After he left, I composed a single-line email to Jason, attaching all the new evidence. "Brittany isn't just lying, she's committing identity theft and fraud. We need to stop her now." That night, sleep eluded me. From my study window, I watched moonlight shimmer across the pool I'd designed to reflect the stars. This sanctuary that once represented my triumph had become a battlefield, where I now fought to protect not just my property, but my very identity from someone who shared my blood. The following afternoon, just as I wrapped up a client call, my phone vibrated with an urgent alert, "Unauthorized entry detected in main hall." My pulse quickened. No one was scheduled today. Tapping into the security feed, I froze in horror. There stood Brittany in my living room, iPad in hand, gesturing grandly to a group of well-dressed strangers furiously taking notes. "This showcase property is just the beginning of what Warren Design Studios will offer," her voice rang with unearned confidence through my speakers. "I personally conceptualized every architectural element you see. Early investors receive priority selection in our upcoming luxury developments." Rage burned through my veins. She was conducting an investment tour in my house, claiming my work, using my identity to commit fraud. My fingers trembled as I dialed 911. "Police dispatch, what's your emergency?" "Intruders in my home, violation of active restraining order. Address is 138 Hillcrest Drive, property of Allison Warren. The lead trespasser is soliciting fraudulent investments while being recorded on my security system." 8 excruciating minutes later, police sirens wailed in the distance. On my screen, Brittany continued her practiced pitch until uniformed officers appeared in the doorway. "Police. Nobody move. Which one of you is Brittany Wilson?" Her rehearsed smile faltered. "Is something wrong, officers?" "You're violating a restraining order, trespassing on private property, and suspected of investment fraud. Please step aside for questioning." "This is ridiculous." Brittany's voice cracked with panic. "I'm just showing family friends our new development." The supposed investors exchanged alarmed glances, backing away. A gray-haired man in an expensive suit demanded, "This isn't her property?" She claimed to be the award-winning architect. I arrived just then, property documents in hand, my face a mask of controlled fury. "I apologize for this situation," I addressed the group, voice steady despite my thundering heart. "I'm Allison Warren, the legitimate owner and architect of this home. Everything you've heard from this woman is fabricated." Brittany struggled against an officer's grip. "Allison, how could you humiliate me like this?" My gaze never wavered. "The law is doing that, not me." Turning to the bewildered group, I continued, "I strongly advise verifying credentials before investing. This woman has no legitimate business, no development projects, and is currently under criminal investigation." As officers escorted Brittany to the waiting patrol car, curious neighbors gathered across the street, drawn by the commotion. I closed my door on the spectacle, leaning against it as tension drained from my body. Finally, the truth stood in plain sight, not just for me, but for everyone. I foolishly thought the worst was behind me. Then my phone rang, Mom's name flashing on the screen. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Her voice shattered the quiet. "You had Brittany arrested like a common criminal. Everyone's talking about us." I waded through her tirade, then spoke with steel in my voice. "I warned you. My work, my identity, they're not family donations. She's your sister." Mom's voice cracked with tears. "She's just trying to create something for herself. By stealing my designs, forging documents, defrauding investors." My words cut like glass. "Defend her, and you're choosing fraud over truth." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling strangely hollow yet unburdened. That night I forwarded everything to Jason: security footage, social media evidence, Ethan's testimony, property documents, with one clear message: proceeding with full charges, identity theft, trespassing, fraud. 2 days later, Detective Morgan welcomed me into a small interrogation room at the police station. Files and digital evidence covered the table between us. "Allison," he began gravely, "what we've uncovered goes far beyond trespassing. Your sister orchestrated a sophisticated fraud operation." My knuckles whitened as I gripped the chair. "She used your social security number, professional license, and portfolio to create a shadow identity. According to our evidence, she's been impersonating you for nearly 7 months." The room seemed to tilt. These investors believed they were communicating with award-winning architect Allison Warren. They wired approximately $1.8 million to accounts under Warren Design Studios, a fictitious company using your credentials. A strangled sound escaped me. $1.8 million? The detective spread bank statements before me. "She promised extraordinary returns, showing your house as proof of her design capabilities. We've identified victims across 5 states. And my mother?" I managed. His expression darkened. "We found loan applications with your mother's signature guaranteeing over $600,000 for Brittany's fake business." Ice spread through my veins. Was my mother an accomplice? "That's unclear," he replied carefully. "If she knowingly signed while aware of the impersonation, she could face conspiracy charges. If she was misled, she's another victim." The weight of this revelation crushed me. The family I'd tried to protect despite everything was now possibly implicated in criminal fraud. "Did you ever authorize Brittany to use your identity or property for any business purpose?" the detective asked. Looking directly into his eyes, I answered, "Never. Not once." He nodded. "The case is being transferred to financial crimes. Given the dollar amount and identity theft involved, your sister faces substantial prison time. If your mother knowingly participated, she'll face charges too." Later, sitting in my car, I scrolled through dozens of messages. Mom stood out: "Your sister is terrified. Please drop the charges. Family forgives." I closed the message without responding. That evening, I wrote to Jason: "Urgent, need media strategy. Willing to make public statement. No one else should fall victim to this scheme." From my kitchen window, I watched city lights shimmer in the distance, their peace at odds with my turmoil. This fight had evolved beyond protecting my home. Now I defended my entire identity and life's work from those who should have cherished both. The hospital's call came without warning. A gentle-voiced nurse informed me that Brittany had been admitted following severe abdominal pain. She was 3 months pregnant. My blood turned to ice. Not even Ethan, who'd ended their engagement days earlier, had mentioned a pregnancy. I knew instantly what this news meant. Mom's ultimate emotional weapon had just been loaded. True to form, my phone rang within the hour. "Allison." Mom's voice quavered dramatically. "Brittany's pregnant. The doctors say her stress levels are endangering the baby." The silence between us stretched taut. "Haven't you won enough?" she pleaded. "You have your precious house, your career, your reputation. Your sister has nothing left. Are you really going to send an expectant mother to prison?" I inhaled deeply, steadying my voice. "What Brittany's clinging to isn't a life, Mom, it's a fabrication. As for the child, if you truly cared, you'd recognize no child deserves to be raised on stolen identity and fraudulent money." Her sobs erupted through the speaker. "You're heartless." "No," I replied evenly. "I'm ending the cycle of enablement that brought us here. Did you know your signature appears on loan documents now under criminal investigation? Your blind defense of Brittany is what's truly destroying this family." The line went dead. The courtroom hummed with tension. Press, victims, and legal teams filled every seat. I sat rigid in the front row while Ethan's testimony detailed how Brittany had convinced him to pose as her business partner to lure investors. Throughout proceedings, Brittany maintained her innocence, insisting it was all a sisterly misunderstanding and that she'd only wanted to build something meaningful. When these claims fell flat, she sobbed to her attorney that she'd acted from jealousy of Allison's success, a performance that left the judge visibly unmoved. On sentencing day, Brittany entered in prison orange, her handcuffed hands resting protectively over her slightly rounded belly, the same pregnancy she'd wielded as a shield against consequences. After thorough examination of evidence and testimony, the judge declared, "This court finds Brittany Wilson guilty of identity theft, financial fraud, and criminal trespass, with damages exceeding $1.8 million. The defendant is sentenced to 8 years in state prison." The courtroom fell silent. Brittany's face emptied of its usual calculation, revealing only hollow defeat. Ethan sat behind me, eyes fixed on the floor. Then came my mother's sentence. Her signatures on fraudulent documents made her an accessory. Though her previously clean record and eventual cooperation spared her incarceration, she received 5 years probation and restitution payments totaling $120,000. I felt neither triumph nor anger, only the weightlessness of truth finally acknowledged. That evening, I sat on my terrace watching stars appear one by one. Lavender scented the air as a chapter of my life closed firmly shut. No fanfare, no celebration, just the quiet after a long storm. My phone lit up with Jason's message, "We recovered almost everything. Congratulations." I replied simply, "Not everything. But I stood for what's right." Setting down my phone, I gazed toward the horizon. The next chapter awaited, one without shadows, manipulation, or false loyalty. 6 months later, I stood on my rooftop terrace, wine glass catching the golden sunset as I gazed at the garden below. Lavender bloomed in perfect rows along the stone pathway, exactly as I'd sketched in my original blueprints 3 years ago. Everything had transformed, the landscape, certainly, but more profoundly, the woman who created it. Brittany's fraud case had dominated headlines for weeks. I'd feared the scandal would destroy Warren architectural design, but remarkably, the opposite occurred. My unwavering stance against deception earned unexpected respect from clients and competitors alike. New commissions flooded in, luxury residences, innovative commercial spaces, even public buildings I'd only dreamed of designing. The State Architectural Association invited me to keynote their annual conference, and design magazines began referring to my home as a monument to professional integrity in a field where women still fight for recognition. I transformed this painful chapter into purpose by hosting fundraisers for the Bridgeway Foundation, supporting women entering architecture and construction, creating the mentorship network I never had. For the first event, I invited everyone who stood beside me in my darkest moments, colleagues, friends, even Ethan, whose courage to speak truth had helped justice prevail. Madison arrived first, arms filled with vibrant sunflowers. "This place looks even more spectacular than your renderings," she marveled. I smiled. "Without your midnight pep talks, I'd have abandoned the permit process." As evening deepened, I guided guests through my creation, the vaulted ceilings capturing perfect acoustics, the kitchen where function met art, the studio where future visions would take shape. On the terrace, string lights twinkled among olive trees like earthbound stars, reflecting in the infinity pool that seemed to merge with the valley below. "I'm seriously contemplating squatting here," whispered my former professor, raising his glass in toast. My security app vibrated discreetly, alert, Brittany Wilson detected at property perimeter. Not crossing restraining order boundary. Police notified. I calmly locked exterior doors through my phone while maintaining conversation without missing a beat. Not a single guest noticed the potential threat to our celebration. Near midnight, Madison helped collect empty glasses, pausing to admire the valley lights. "Your mother called yesterday," she confessed. "Says the family's falling apart without you. She wants you to forgive Brittany as the mature one." After a thoughtful silence, I replied, "You know what felt most liberating tonight?" "What?" "Hosting my first gathering without constantly watching the door, dreading who might appear to claim my success as theirs." Madison simply embraced me, understanding what words couldn't express. Later, alone beneath soft amber lighting, I spread blueprints for my newest project across my desk. This house had evolved beyond personal achievement, it now stood as testament to the courage to defend one's worth, regardless of blood ties. On a crisp autumn morning, dew still clinging to my garden stones, I discovered a cream envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just familiar handwriting, Allison Warren. My heart constricted. I knew those curved letters instantly. In my study, bathed in amber morning light, I unfolded the letter with steady hands, the scent of chamomile tea still warming the air. "Allison, I don't know if I deserve to call you sister anymore, but if anything remains between us, even just memories, please read this completely. I'm having a daughter. She's healthy." Feeling her kick last week made me sob uncontrollably, not from pain, but because suddenly I yearned to do something right for once. No apology can erase what I did to your home, your reputation, your trust. But prison strips away pretense. Without makeup, without audience, I'm facing the emptiness I've run from my entire life. You needn't forgive me, but someday when my daughter asks about the first woman in our family who built something meaningful, who defended her worth without wavering, I want to tell her about you, Allison Warren. If forgiveness isn't possible, at least believe that I finally want to change. Brittany. I folded the paper carefully, placing it in a drawer where I keep things that belong neither to present nor past, things suspended in emotional limbo. What I felt wasn't anger or forgiveness or even sadness, just quiet acknowledgement, like standing at cliff's edge feeling neither fear nor exhilaration. That evening in my garden, Madison called with an invitation to Carmel for the weekend. I accepted without hesitation. I'd earned respite. Before sleep, I checked my project notebook and marked Lakeside Community groundbreaking as confirmed. The ink gleamed in lamplight as I smiled. Life continues. New homes await creation, built not just with materials, but with integrity, resilience, and self-trust. Will Brittany actually change? Can I ever look at her without seeing betrayal? I don't know. But I understand now that forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's refusing to let past wounds dictate your future. Our family may never truly reconcile, but I no longer feel guilty for protecting what I've built. I've learned to release what I cannot control and focus on what I create. This house stands for more than achievement, it represents moments when saying no preserves your light. Morning arrived with birdsong outside my window. Sunlight streamed through glass, gentle, steady, like the woman I'd become. Sipping coffee, I opened my computer to schedule presentations. My company's new tagline caught my eye, your success. Your light. Your terms. Living this truth wasn't just philosophy, it was my daily practice. Through pain, I discovered that those closest often wound us deepest. Yet that same pain taught me to stand firm, defending values I'd worked a lifetime to build. Moving forward doesn't require carrying others' burdens. Success demands no external approval. It requires only self-knowledge, purpose, and conviction. No one has the right to claim the light you've kindled.